Welcome back into the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. My name is Tyler Plath, and today we are discussing the best picks in each round of your fantasy drafts this year. These are the players that you want to be drafting because not only will you be avoiding other player traps in your draft, but you are getting the best mix between volume, situation, upside, and overall efficiency. We will go rounds 1 through 10 using Sleeper's ADP, and so we'll dive right on in to our first round pick, who is Nick Chubb. We could have gone the easy route and talked about any of the guys that go before Nick Chubb, right? Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, etc., etc. But the reason why we are putting Nick Chubb here as a round 1 pick is because you get overall running back 1 upside with Nick Chubb. And if you're looking at the other running backs in the first round, there are things that you can point out in each one of them that make Chubb an intriguing value. You look at Austin Eckler, likely to not see 100 receptions again this year. Christian McCaffrey, his fantasy production takes a serious hit when Elijah Mitchell's healthy. Bijan Robinson, his touchdown production, you know the volume that he can get, but can the touchdown production follow suit? Saquon Barkley will forever and always be a health risk. Nick Chubb finally has his backfield to himself, and that's been something that we've been asking for years now because he's been splitting that backfield with Kareem Hunt. It's all his now. Receiving work, we will see an uptick in that. Carries, you should expect the same. But whenever he gets the ball in his hands, good things happen. That's why he has running back 1 overall upside. Next up is Tony Pollard, and there is really not much else that we can say on this channel other than we believe he is probably the best value in all of fantasy football right now, all things considered, right? With Josh Jacobs holding out, Jonathan Taylor, his situation's kind of up in the air, Ramondre Stevenson now sharing a backfield with Ezekiel Elliott, Breece Hall sharing now with Dalvin Cook. Pollard is a dark horse to finish as the running back 1 overall based on his situation and his previous years of efficiency. But not only does he have a high ceiling, he has a high floor as well. Let's say the Cowboys do bring in a guy like Leonard Fournette or Kareem Hunt. We've seen Tony Pollard still finish as a top 10 running back with someone else in that backfield. He was the RB7 with Ezekiel Elliott last year. This is the same guy that people were pounding the table for to get more touches last year over Ezekiel Elliott. And now that's finally here. This backfield, just like Nick Chubb, finally belongs to the guy that we've been asking for. He's going to make the most of the opportunity. You can go look at all the efficiency metrics. The guy is proven. He will handle a full workload, and he will most definitely return value as he's going in the second round. On to the third round with Chris Olave, and him and Garrett Wilson are the obvious sophomore leapers this year. I mean, heck, you can just look at ADP and that'll explain it on its own. But let's take a look at last year. He was 10th, again, as a rookie in yards per route run, which is the holy grail of all receiving stats, and was 5th in unrealized air yards. He was 4th in deep targets, and he was 12th in route win rate. So there was a lot left on the table with Andy Dalton as his quarterback, right, with the unrealized air yards. The guy gets open, so he's going to be a quarterback's favorite target, and now he gets Derek Carr. And Derek Carr, while you may not have strong opinions about him as an actual NFL quarterback like some of us do on this channel, I'm adding myself on that one, and probably Lucas and Cameron as well. But Derek Carr is enough of an upgrade to make all those missed fantasy points and opportunities a reality for Chris Olave this year. So, again, based on the ADP, there is a lot of signaling that Olave has a good chance to break out as a top 12 option. And if you can grab a top 12 wide receiver in the third round, when everyone else is going to be scrambling for a wide receiver running back that has that same kind of upside, you're setting yourself apart from everyone else. So if this was how your draft started, this could very well be looked at as you zigging when everyone else is zagging. But what you're actually doing is just value hunting, and Olave alone is great value. Keenan Allen is our pick here for the 4th round, and this can be purely summarized as Keenan Allen being the wide receiver 1 in what is going to be a very pass-happy and high-octane offense. After coming back from his injury last year, he was the wide receiver 3 from week 11 until the end of the season. And he averaged, across that stretch of games, he averaged 7 or 8 receptions a game on 10 targets for 84 yards and half a touchdown a game. So he's either putting up 15 fantasy points if he doesn't score, or he's putting up over 20 fantasy points when he scores. He was also 13th in yards per route run. There's the stat again. And 8th in target separation. So he gets open just like Chris Olave did. And he was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game. Look, it is really as simple as he is the best target on this Chargers offense. Yes, they did just add Quentin Johnston. I'm not scared of Quentin Johnston when it comes to Keenan Allen. Okay, Keenan Allen is miles ahead of where Quentin Johnston is as a player. There's a lot of developing that needs to happen first with Johnston before we can really talk about Quentin Johnston taking targets away from Keenan Allen. And yes, Austin Eckler is there, but I don't see Austin Eckler lining up outside or in the slot as often as Keenan Allen does. So look, we're not scared by the age of Keenan Allen. We're not scared of the perceived injury history that always follows Keenan Allen. Like, yes, he did get hurt last year and he missed 6-7 games. But before that, he had only missed 2 games in the past 4 years, in the previous 4 years. So this guy's injury history, like I said, is perceived. We're not scared of that because, like I said, there's no target like Keenan Allen in this offense. Justin Herbert is going to find him a ton because he gets open, and a wide receiver that gets open earns targets, and that's what Keenan Allen is going to do this year. Moving on to the 5th round now, and this belongs to Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. In our most recent podcast episode with Andrew Erickson of Fantasy Pros, Andrew listed Jerry Jeudy as one of his league winners, and all 3 of us fellas agree with him on that. Jeudy had a very similar hot streak like Keenan Allen towards the end of last season, where he was the wide receiver 3 from week 14 until the end of the season. And that helped catapult him to a wide receiver 22 finish last year. But the takeaway is that he is clearly the number 1 option in this offense because, admittedly, some of us thought that it was going to be Courtland Sutton last year, and that didn't happen. And so you saw the rapport build between Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy to where now we find ourselves as Jerry Jeudy being the number 1 option. And now Sean Payton is in town. Okay, and Sean Payton is not a stooge. He knows what he's doing. He's going to try to give Jerry Jeudy the ball as often as he can. So if you can get Jeudy in the 5th, and let's quick recap, right? 1st round Nick Chubb, 2nd round Tony Pollard, both guys that have running back 1 overall upside. Then Chris Olave, Keenan Allen, and now Jerry Jeudy. 3 wide receivers that have top 15 upside. That separates your team from everyone else in your league. Because, again, you're getting upside, you're getting volume, you're getting situation, you're getting efficiency. Everything that you should be looking for in a fantasy asset, you get with every single one of these guys so far on this list. Look, you're getting Jerry Jeudy at the floor where he finished last year. So there's only upwards to go. And getting that in the 5th round is an extreme value and something that you should be targeting. Moving right along here to our 6th round pick, which is Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert. He finished as the tight end 5 in fantasy points per game last year, and before getting hurt in his first 9 games, 6 of those games were top 10 finishes. That's relatively uncommon in the tight end space if your name isn't Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews. Goddard is a guy that we've talked about before, but there are some stats that I personally love that I will always share. He was 3rd in snap share and 6th in route participation, which means he's super involved in this offense, and that was great to see in year 1 of the offense with A.J. Brown. He was 3rd in yards per route run. There's that stat again, except for tight ends. But that's not a fluke of a stat because he finished as the tight end 1 in yards per route run in 2021. So getting repeated production in that department is a great sign again. And lastly, he was third in quarterback rating per target, meaning when Hurts targeted him, good things happened. He's personally my tight end target this year if I don't go Kelsey or Andrews early, because I'm still getting top 5. Heck, can we say top 3 upside? I know it's a little bit more of a stretch, but at least it's there for a guy like Dallas Goedert in an offense like Philly's that is going to be one of the highest scoring offenses again this year. But the other reason why I like going with Goddard, or why he's my target for tight end, is because I can build out my roster first, right, with my first 5 rounds, rather than trying to build my roster around going early at tight end. The best pick in the 7th round is Lions running back David Montgomery, and Monty is the perfect running back 3 for your teams this year, but he is a very, very sufficient running back 2 if you decide to go hero RB as your draft strategy. He is now a Detroit Lion, and the Lions last year were first in running back usage, and that's a stat that our friend Hayden Winks from Underdog Fantasy dropped when we had him on to discuss best ball strategies and values. But that can translate over to redraft. And if we look back to last year at who the running backs were that the Lions used so much, it was DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. And they upgraded this offseason from DeAndre Swift to Jahmyr Gibbs, from Jamal Williams to David Montgomery. So Montgomery will get the bulk of carries and red zone carries in the Jamal Williams role. And I'm not going to say that it's a 1-for-1 copy and paste replacement in terms of fantasy production, because the Lions got inside the 5 an absurd amount of times last year, hence why you saw all the touchdowns from Jamal Williams. But when you compare Jamal Williams and David Montgomery, Montgomery is much more dynamic of a runner than Jamal Williams. So is there more in store for this role because now David Montgomery is in this role? Quite possibly. So again, the team that used their running backs the most, upgraded both running backs, are now signaling that they want to continue using their running backs that much. It's a great sign for Montgomery. And again, that's why he's a great option for a running back 3, but also a running back 2 if you go hero RB, because he is going to have a big role in this offense. Let's follow that up and move on to the 8th round, where we will discuss Vikings rookie wide receiver Jordan Addison. And Lucas is all in on Jordan Addison this year, and he has been slowly talking Cameron and myself in on Addison as well. Addison has a great college production profile where he did win the Biletnikoff Award when he was at Pittsburgh, and now he's going into one of the best passing offenses in the league. There are 107 targets vacated from Adam Thielen's departure, and then some from Dalvin Cook's departure, and they're not all going to go to Jordan Addison, right? The running backs will get theirs. KJ Osborne will take some as well. But what I am trying to say is that there is enough volume for Jordan Addison to have a very productive role in the offense, and especially in fantasy. And that's what makes him such a great value in the 8th round, because he has an upside that most receivers going around him in that range don't really have. Yes, Jahan Dotson's kind of there. George Pickens are there, and I like Pickens. I like Dotson. But Addison has a much higher ceiling than either one of those guys. And after the 8th round, wide receivers get really, really, really disgusting. So grabbing Addison before that fall off can pay off in a big way. The best pick in the 9th round is Gabe Davis. And I know I just said that the wide receivers after the Addison range fall off dramatically, but when you're looking at guys like Michael Thomas and Juju Smith-Schuster, and heck, if you didn't look wide receivers, you're then looking at like Brian Robinson and Jamal Williams. So we're going to go with Gabe Davis on this one. Yes, I know Gabe Davis burned you. He burned me as well because I fell for the ADP trap. But this year, he is going at a much more reasonable price. And as much as we want to dismiss Gabe Davis's performance last year, he was still the wide receiver 36. We still saw touchdown production from him. We saw the increase in targets, but the receptions didn't really follow. It wasn't necessarily all on Gabe Davis, though, because Josh Allen was struggling with an elbow injury, which caused him to not throw many catchable targets to Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis finished 68th of all wide receivers in that department. So yeah, not great, but it's not all on Gabe Davis. But looking at this year, like I said earlier, much more reasonable price tag than last year is 9th round capital instead of 5th or 6th round capital. Still the wide receiver 36 last year, so you're drafting him behind where he finished last year. I don't think there's any other stat I can mention to make you feel any better about Gabe Davis, but just looking at his situation, right? The offense that he's in with the quarterback that he has now going into year 2 in a Ken Dorsey offense, because I think there were some growing pains last year after not having Brian Daboll. It's not all doom and gloom for Gabe Davis. And again, of all the options that you have in the 9th round, Gabe Davis is the one that shines the brightest. It may not be super bright, but it is by far the brightest out of everyone else. And the last guy that we'll talk about is Bears running back Khalil Herbert, and I've been slowly creeping up on Herbert this offseason. I have him as my running back 36, which isn't really reflected in our consensus rank of running back 43, so thanks a ton, Cameron Lucas. I'm totally kidding. Look, last year with Monty in front of him, Herbert did show some flashes, and most notably in week 3 against Houston when he filled in for Montgomery last minute, and he finished as the running back 1 that week. Now, he figures to be the lead back this year, and with the efficiency that we saw last year, he could be a steal. He was 5th in true yards per carry. He was 7th in yards per touch. He was 7th in juke rate, 9th in yards created per touch. The guy just gets yards, and now with lead back duties, with the 2nd easiest strength of schedule for running backs according to Fantasy Pros, he could very easily return value at his round 10 draft capital. And he's someone that, if let's say I do take Montgomery as my running back 2, Herbert is sneaky my running back 3 target, because again, there's not a whole lot to dislike with Khalil Herbert. Again, he will be the lead back. Yes, Deontay Foreman is there, and yes, they did draft Roschon Johnson, but Khalil Herbert has been there the longest and has shown enough, to me at least, and I hope the coaches, that he deserves more opportunities. That wraps up another video on the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel, and a quick recap of the best picks in each round of your fantasy drafts this year, starting with round 1, Nick Chubb, round 2, Tony Pollard, round 3, Chris Olave, round 4, Keenan Allen, round 5, Jerry Jeudy, round 6, Dallas Goedert, round 7, David Montgomery, round 8, Jordan Addison, round 9, Gabe Davis, and round 10, Khalil Herbert. Thanks for tuning in. Give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already or aren't, and hit that notification bell so you know when we post, because we are posting every day, whether it's a short, it's a video like this, or it's a podcast episode, because we are giving you information to help you win your leagues this year. And go ahead and drop in the comments who you are targeting in your drafts this year. Doesn't need to be round specific. Maybe it's just the one guy you want in every single draft. We'll be back next week to discuss the worst picks in every round of your fantasy drafts this year. You don't want to miss that. So until then, deuces.